All right, so we are now ready to get started. Welcome back, everyone. For those of you who are just joining us, I'm Charles Besançon, and I'm the moderator for the whole day today. Before we get started with our next panel, I want to remind everyone of our COVID protocols. So everyone needs to wear a mask all of the time. Even if you're presenting, even if you're speaking, you still have to wear the mask. Even me. We have a strict protocol on the number of people allowed in this pavilion, and that number is 36. So we're doing pretty well with that already today. During each panel presentation, Yassine, who's raising his hand over here, look at Yassine, he's collecting the names and contact details for everyone that's in the audience. And this is for contact tracing purposes. And then every time we switch to a new panel, we need to vacate this pavilion so that we can clean the chairs and the microphones and everything. So please, when the panel is over, if you could take yourself to some other place in this building. There's a nice cafe on the other side of the wall here. All right. So this session is called Pathways to Making Peace with Nature in the Mediterranean. And this is the second panel in that session. This is on promising solutions. So this is about regional projects, programs, and initiatives that will help mitigate the impacts and sustain human activities. And I would like to now call all of the panelists who are in the room to please come forward and have a seat. So, yeah, please come forward, and then I'll introduce you one at a time when when it's time to speak. So please, yeah, come on forward and. Please have a seat, panelists. Can you hear me okay? Through your head, yeah, okay. Good, everyone else can hear okay? Great. Please let me know if there's any issue. So for everyone following this online, just bear with us. We're getting everyone together. And now we're going to switch to an online presentation, which is Souha. So Terence, if you can switch over to that. Souha, can you test your audio and let's see if we can hear you?
Yes, hello, this is Souha. Do you hear me?
Okay, great. Yes, we can hear you. So let me introduce you, Souha. So Souha El Asmi is the Specially Protected Areas Program Officer at RAC. She holds an engineering and a master's degree in marine environment and resources and has over 20 years experience in marine biodiversity and protected areas establishment at Mediterranean level. So please, over to you, Souha.
Thank you, Charles. Hello, Marseille and the rest of the world. So a representative, well-connected and efficiently managed system of protected areas and other effective area-based conservation measures is part of the solutions that we try to offer to our Mediterranean region. Since its establishment, the SPARAC, the Specially Protected Areas Regional Activity Center of the Barcelona Convention, has been supporting the Mediterranean countries in inventorying their biodiversity and in establishing and managing marine and coastal protected areas. So this includes the elaboration of baseline socioeconomic and ecological studies, for example, for MPAs and future MPAs, the participative elaboration of management plan, business plans, the implementation of management and monitoring activities in the field, and also the implementation of capacity building programs. So these efforts towards expanding the regional MPA system have been intensified since the last 20 years and have involved, as you could see on this map, more than 44 marine sites in 14 Mediterranean countries. So such ambitious undertaking requires cooperation and joining efforts. And for this reason, the UNEP-MAP and SPARAC are closely collaborating with many regional organizations, such as, for example, the ACOBAMS, the GFCM, IUCN, the METPAN, WWF, Oceana, and many others, and also benefiting of the generous support of numerous private and public donors. Bilateral cooperation and donors are also key in supporting the overall regional efforts, like, for example, the support of the Italian Ministry of Environment for the implementation of what we call the SPAMI twinning program. SPAMIs, as you should know, are marine protected areas of Mediterranean importance listed under the Barcelona Convention and that are intended to have a value of example and model for the protection of the natural heritage in the region. Furthermore, research institutions as well as local NGOs play an important role in protected area management and monitoring. So in spite of all these efforts, the region is lagging behind in the implementation of the 2020 MPA targets. There are currently 1,137 MPAs covering 8.3 of the Mediterranean Sea and including only 0.06% of strictly protected areas. There are no marine OECMs reported for the Mediterranean to date. There is a large disparity, as you could see on this map, in MPA coverage between countries, with a majority of areas occurring on the Western Basin and in EU waters. Besides the expansion on coverage targets, numerous qualitative improvements should be made. These are related mainly to legal frameworks and governance, to systematic management planning, to availability of adequate funding and permanent staff, as I was saying this morning, regulation and surveillance, and also stakeholder engagement. So to help overcoming all these persistent problems, an ambitious and transformational post-2020 strategy for marine protected areas and OECMs in the Mediterranean has been elaborated in line with the CBD post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework. This strategy is on its way to be adopted by the contracting parties to the Barcelona Convention in their forthcoming COP in December 2021. So the strategy was drafted under the contracting parties guidance, as we said, and with the technical support of the AGM ad hoc group of experts for MPAs in the Mediterranean, and in consultation with relevant regional, international, and national organizations. So the strategy is built around 5 strategic pillars. The first is related to governance, the second to the network expansion, the third to OECMs, the fourth to the management effectiveness, and the fifth and last one to government and stakeholder action and support. So under each pillar, a clear strategic outcome, as you could see, has been identified along with corresponding outputs and key actions that are structured at national or at international levels. So 2 post-2020 targets have been identified also for the Mediterranean Sea as a whole. And the first one is related to protecting and conserving 30% of the Mediterranean through well-connected, ecologically representative and effective system of MPAs and OECMs by the 2030 horizon. And the second target is aiming to increasing the number and coverage of marine protected areas with enhanced protection levels by 2030. So pillar 1 related to governance. So as you know, strengthening governance and cooperation among actors for both the establishment and management of protected areas is essential for achieving the 2030 targets. Therefore, there is first a need to ensure that appropriate legislation and legal frameworks and institutional frameworks are in place for MPA establishment and management. And second, that governance models include equitable and effective participation of stakeholders. There is also a need for MPA to be integrated, recognized, and engaged in the governance of surrounding territories, and that intersectoral cooperation is improved. Lastly, it is important to ensure that there is flexibility in planning and management frameworks to adapt to possible changes in political, social, or environmental conditions. And the COVID crisis is an edifiant example. So the second pillar, MPA coverage. So it is evident that in order to advance towards the 2030 the 30% target, a more strategic approach is needed. So a first step in applying such strategic approach is to ensure that the areas important for biodiversity and ecosystem services are clearly identified across the region. And secondly, that countries with particular low MPA coverage are supported to establish soundly designed MPAs across these priority areas. So the third output, we see that the MPAs are also poorly represented in the areas beyond national jurisdiction, and particularly as threats continue to emerge in these open waters, there is an urgent need for the establishment of soundly designated MPAs in these remote areas. Output 4 identifies the need for increasing the percentage of MPAs with an enhanced, or let's say, stronger level of protection, given that such areas are underrepresented in the present Mediterranean system of protected areas. The third pillar is related to OECMs. These OECMs will be a critical tool to help the countries meet the post-2020 targets. And the Barcelona Convention has an important role to play in facilitating the identification and reporting of OECMs, but their management and monitoring would generally fall under the responsibility and mandate of other sectoral organizations. So activities under this pillar focus on supporting countries in understanding first and applying OECM criteria. And secondly, further guidance and support will be provided for potential and candidate OECM recognition and reporting to relevant regional and global databases. Some OECMs may host important ecosystem services and biodiversity that would benefit from additional area-based measures to increase their biodiversity outcomes. And these OECMs should be prioritized in sectoral marine spatial planning so that new OECMs could be also established. So concerning management, there is a clear need to support the development of practical and cost-effective management plan for every MPA. So once these management plan developed, they need to be implemented in an effective and cost-efficient manner, and that sustainable finances are mobilized for its full implementation. Many MPAs in the Med have insufficient staff numbers and staff capacity. So once MPAs have staff in place, it is essential to provide these with capacity development programs regularly and in a sufficient way. Also, a central activity to enhance management effectiveness is ensuring that effective enforcement of regulations and promoting compliance among users is in place. Lastly, we could say that supporting and harmonizing biodiversity, socioeconomic, and threat monitoring methods will help provide the information necessary to carry out management effectiveness evaluations. This is for management. Concerning the government and stakeholder action and support, the central aim of this outcome is to initiate change in behavior across the different sectors to move away from business as usual and to have MPAs and OECMs valued as essential elements to achieve national agendas. So the first output, therefore, aims to increase understanding of the values of MPAs and OECMs across government and non-government stakeholders, the private sector, the youth, and the wider society in general. Also, a major barrier to achieving the MPA target has been the lack of political will to establish and to manage marine protected areas. So critical to securing government support will be advancing their recognition to the national economy and the recognition of the value of MPAs to the national economy and also the value of these MPAs in contributing to achieving national and international commitments. Therefore, there is a need to establish strong communication channels between the MPA management and the government, and a need to reinforce cooperation between governmental and non-governmental stakeholders. So,
Souha, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
sorry.
You can't see me waving the 2-minute sign, but if you could try to wrap it up soon, that would be great. We're a little over time.
The only time, 2 minutes is enough. Thank you very much. So the third output says that ensuring that the wider society recognizes the role of MPAs and their socio-economic value, especially through, for example, opportunities to sustainable livelihoods, will be critical in mobilizing the public action and support for MPAs and OECMs. So this is my last slide. So after its adoption, the post-2020 strategy should be used as a tool to harmonize the efforts to meet the 2030 targets in the Mediterranean and to promote joint activities and programs by countries, by the Barcelona Convention system, by all the other international organizations and donors active in the region. Also, an evaluation and monitoring framework is expected to be developed during the 22 and 23 period. This will be based on sound indicators, also harmonized with other frameworks under the Barcelona Convention and under the CBD Future global biodiversity framework. Lastly, we should say that for a better impact of the strategy, this regional strategy should be supported by other key initiatives in the region, like, for example, the well-known MPA for a roadmap and many other actions that involve the wide community of MPA actors in the region. That would be all from my side now. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Souha. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. We're going to hold off on any questions the audience might have until all of the panelists have given their presentations. Okay, so the next presentation will have two speakers, and I'll introduce them one at a time. Maria del Mar Otero is a marine conservationist that has worked for IUCN since 2008 and is now the Marine Biodiversity and Blue Economy Manager. She works on conservation issues related to marine and coastal ecosystems, developing capacity building, facilitating knowledge transfer, and networking. She has more than 20 years of experience in projects and initiatives on sustainable management of coastal systems, fishing bycatch, and impacts on the Mediterranean environment, to climate adaptation and MPAs in the Mediterranean, blue carbon, and many more. So that's Maria del Mar Otero. And I'm going to introduce now Jaques Sacchi. Thank you. He's a fisheries biologist and fisheries technologist, formerly director of research at IFREMER. He's currently an independent consultant specializing in issues of fishing gear selectivity and reduction of bycatch of protected species in Mediterranean and tropical fisheries. So I think, Maria, you're going to start the presentation.
May I stand up? See, so I can see.
Yeah. Over here.
Okay. No, that one. Maybe the one that's Sparac. No.
Should be Sparac. REMPEC?
No. It's not there. The same is not here. Presentation. It's not there.
I think it's there, no?
No.
Okay. We can go to...
The next.
Yeah, no. We can go to Gabino first, and after we go to Bycatch.
Okay.
Fine.
I'm sorry. So
It's okay.
can you do you hang on? Yes, do you have it? Sorry about that.
Yeah. That's really good.
Yeah. Well, so we're gonna have to go to the next one. I'm sorry about that.
Really?
Yeah, sorry.
So you don't have it on the membership? No, not that. You can go to that.
Okay, so we're going to make an adaptation here. Sorry, we're having a technical issue. So we're going to ask Gabino, who's online, to please talk to us and test your microphone, see if we can hear you.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes, we can. Okay, good. Can you please switch over to the Zoom link? And Gabino, if you can begin to share, I know you're well, go ahead and begin, please. Wait, let me introduce you. Actually, you're going to have to introduce yourself. I don't have a biography for you. Sorry for that. So please go ahead and give your presentation.
No problem. So thank you very much for this invitation to attend this session. I'm Gabino Gonzales. I'm the head of the Regional Marine Pollution Emergency Response Center for the Mediterranean Sea, which is actually based in Malta and administered by the International Maritime Organization and was established under the United Nations Environment Programme Mediterranean Action Plan under the Barcelona Convention. So you've heard one of my colleagues from another organization from UNEP-MAP. So before I start this presentation, and to allow you to better understand the maritime context of the Mediterranean region, as well as the impact of sulfur oxides and particulate matter emitted from ships on human health and the environment, I would like to invite you to watch a short video which was produced by REMPEC on the SOx ECA, and this will allow you to understand better my follow-up intervention. So if you can display the video, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
The Mediterranean Sea has been an important route for merchants and travelers for thousands of years, facilitating trade, tourism, and migration, all while providing a pleasant climate, beautiful coastlines, and diverse marine life. Fast forward to today, and although the Mediterranean constitutes less than 1% of the world's oceans, it remains one of the busiest seas in the world, supporting 20% of seaborne trade, 10% of world container throughput, and over 200 million passengers every year. But ship movements, which often occur close to densely populated Mediterranean coasts, result in emissions of air pollutants and particulate matter from fuel combustion, including sulphur oxides. Exposures to such pollutants are linked to severe chronic diseases, reduce ecosystems diversity, and damage infrastructure through acid rain. They also increase haze and reduce visibility. One way to combat these challenges is to implement special requirements to reduce ship emissions. In 2020, the International Maritime Organization took bold action to clean up shipping emissions with entry into effect of a new global regulation limiting the sulfur content in fuel oil used on board ships to 0.5%, the so-called IMO sulfur limit. This move has had tangible global benefits, starting with cleaner air and an annual reduction of approximately 8.5 million metric tons of sulfur oxides being released into the atmosphere. And now, Mediterranean countries and the European Union, with the support of the Barcelona Convention system, want to go even further, proposing the designation of the Mediterranean Sea as a whole as an emission control area for sulfur oxides under MARPOL Annex VI, better known as SOx ECA. In effect, capping the sulfur content in fuel oil used on board ships to just 0.1%. The SOx ECA would come with a raft of benefits. It would mean a significant reduction in shipping's negative effects on human health through lowering emissions by 79% for sulfur oxides and 24% for fine particulate matter. When comparing to the IMO sulfur limit, avoiding 1,000 premature deaths due to lung cancers, cardiovascular illnesses and strokes, as well as more than 2,000 cases of childhood asthma. It would contribute to reduced acidification by decreasing deposited acidic pollutants formed from sulfur oxides and reduce harm to crops, forests, and aquatic species that will be cherished for generations to come. It is expected to lead to reduced haze and improvements in visibility, notably over Mediterranean main shipping routes, reducing potential maritime incidents. The proposal to designate the SOx ECA will be considered in December 2021 at the 22nd meeting of the contracting parties to the Barcelona Convention with a view to its submission to IMO. With a proposed entry into effect of the SOx ECA between March 2024 and January 2025, no ship entering the Mediterranean Sea would use fuel with a sulfur content higher than 0.1%, and from that day, we would all breathe cleaner air in the beautiful Mediterranean region.
Thank you. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I invite you to share it through your respective network. So the video is available on our website. So allow me now to express my appreciation and gratitude to all those involved in this wonderful initiative. Primarily experts from the 21 Mediterranean coastal states and the European Union, who have jointly elaborated under the leadership of the Regional Marine Pollution Emergency Response Center for the Mediterranean Sea, REMPEC, and the support of the International Maritime Organization, the Mediterranean Action Plan of the United Nations Environment Programme, UNEP-MAP, and its components, MARPOL and Plan Bleu, the various studies and knowledge gathering that led to the draft joint and coordinated proposal for the designation of the Mediterranean Sea as a whole as an emission control area for sulfur oxides, the so-called SOx ECA, which I hope will be considered favorably next week by the meeting of focal point of the MAP focal points, prior to its submission for adoption to the 22nd meeting of the contracting parties to the Barcelona Convention, which will be held in Enaleia in December this year. We are approaching this critical milestone after a long journey, started back in 2005, when the idea of a SOx ECA first originally arose in the regional strategy for prevention of and response to marine pollution from ships, for the period 2005-2015, and then carried on into the strategy for the period 2016-2021, and more lately into the proposed strategy for the next 10 years until 2031. The adoption in 2019 of a roadmap for the proposal for the possible designation of the SOx ECA within the framework of the Barcelona Convention by all contracting parties to the Barcelona Convention has reflected the commitments of the entire region to address this initiative. And once again, the 45-year-old MAP Barcelona Convention system has demonstrated the beauty of this forum where all Mediterranean coastal states and the EU have sat around the same table, sharing the national concern to overcome as one region, a challenge with local and regional impact involving the global maritime community. Together or in parallel, we generated multiple studies leading to the same conclusion. a SOx ECA would overall bring health and economic benefits to the region compared to the current 220 IMO sulfur limits. These studies also confirm that low sulfur content fuel and alternative compliance technology will be available to satisfy the future demand and ensure the transition. Now, the ratification of MARPOL Annex VI of the International Convention for Prevention of Pollution from Ships, known as MARPOL Convention, by those countries that have not yet done so, is the next challenge to overcome before the proposed dates of entry into force of the SOx ECA. In this regard, I call on these governments to accelerate the respective ratification process, which will not only address the SOx ECA requirements, but also contribute to the implementation of the initial IMO strategy on reduction of greenhouse gases emission from ships and to the Paris Agreement to respond effectively to climate change.
Gabino.
I take this opportunity to congratulate the government of Albania for its accession earlier this year, becoming the 99th country ratifying MARPOL Annex VI and opening now the race for the 100th country to do so. Financial resources and mechanisms are in place or in the pipeline. Projects are ongoing and will emerge to successfully meet the objective of the SOx ECA, its implementation and enforcement, and we will ensure appropriate consultation and cooperation through the governance mechanism proposed for the implementation of the upcoming Mediterranean strategy for the prevention, preparedness and response to marine pollution for the period 2022-2031, which will address 6 main objectives, namely pollution from ships, marine litter, climate change, indigenous species, special areas, and emission from ships.
Gabino, we're going to have to wrap this presentation up.
I'm just finishing.
Can you hear me? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm finished. Considering these developments, I can say with high confidence that all tools and resources are in our hands to make the SOx ECA a reality and provide generation to come with cleaner air to breathe in our beautiful Mediterranean region. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Okay, fantastic. So now if Maria can come up, and here's a microphone. Did we lose Jacques? Presentation. And then can you switch back over, Terence, please?
So,
Terence, thank you. Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. And I apologize for this misconnection. Yeah, that would be great. So now we're gonna go to another solution, another Mediterranean solution that we have been working. My presentation is on behalf of me from IUCN, but also from UNEP-MAP, RASPA, ACOBAMS, and all the project components and partners that have been possible to make this project a success, that you can find on the slide as well underneath. So the Bycatch, the Bycatch project was a project that started in, this doesn't work. Okay, there is a project that started in 2017. And we have the opportunity during this project to start in Tunisia, in Turkey, and in Morocco. A Bycatch project that started to assess, monitor, building the capacity of stakeholders on how to address on a very wide level Bycatch in these 3 countries. And later on, since this year, beginning with the COVID as well, and the last year as well, we started adding another countries as well. We have sister projects as well coming with the MABA Foundation as well. At the moment, the project has more than 50 observers on board working to assess bycatch of species. The vulnerable species where we're referring to cetaceans, sharks, turtle, corals, and sponges as well. We have more than already getting, or we are getting more than 1,500 observations around the whole coast of these countries, not so much in all Italy and in Croatia, but in the other 3 countries. And now we are also working on mitigation measures. So the project has along the way, during the first, it's a unique project as well because it's a project that has been working in a particular partnership where we have 3 regional centers, 3 regional policy gathering centers, that is the GFCN, the General Fisheries Commission, UNEP-MAP, RASPA Center for the Barcelona Convention, and ACOBANS for the Agreement of Cetaceans. With other organizations like IUCN, WWF, BirdLife, and Medaset working at the central level, and with a whole range of other partners at the national level to help us implement all these particular, a very challenging project because has never been something like that done in the Mediterranean and not many other countries in the world as well. So, and also with the institutions from as well, the research institutions of these countries. So through this project, we already have developed quite a lot of things that are very applicable for all the Mediterranean countries, including the regional monitoring under the FAO, the regional monitoring of discards and bycatch in the Mediterranean, a study on the incidental catch that has been going on over the last years in the Mediterranean as well, of sharks, rays, and dolphins, and other vulnerable species, an identification guide for the observers on board, for the questionnaires on port, to raise the capacity of all this, translating also some of the handling manuals that we have on how to release the animals if they incidentally catch as well, that we thought that they were important as well to raise. And now we are starting as well this year, despite the challenges of other things that will go and show in the next slide. But I wanted to highlight the importance of the bycatch, and this was coming from the report of GSCN collected by the countries as well, that already in this report already highlight that marine turtles and sea and sharks and rays are the most vulnerable species that are getting caught in different fishing gears, long liners, bottom trawlers, pelagic and small fishing vessels as well. You can see in this. And in particular, some of them are endangered or critically endangered as well. And as well, we have other cetacean species that in some particular areas, and seabirds in some particular times, that are also getting bycatch. Bycatch species vary among the country, region, year, and also. So we are also working on policy enabling capacity, transmitting this at the national level of all these countries. We are working at the EU policy level as well, with other partners as well, to help them also at the policy level in the EU with the technical measures and data reporting. And within the GFCN, the new strategy of 2030, there is already a specific line to address bycatch issues in the Mediterranean, and we will continue working on this to address how to bring more recommendations, more synergies, more strategic planning, and more implementation of action for sharks, rays, seabirds, cetaceans, and also vulnerable marine ecosystems attached to it, that is corals, mostly reported by corals and sponges. The policy environment also is part of this work on the new post-2020 of the Barcelona Convention, the Strategic Action Plan for the Conservation of Biodiversity, where already is also a specific target to minimize discards. And here you have also the targets that are at the moment under a draft, but hopefully will be finalized by the end of the year. That will say also that by 2027, we will have to implement more measures and to address this big challenge of the bycatch in the Mediterranean. Another thing that we are doing is not only data reporting, data gathering, but we need to move ahead. We need to bring all these solutions, and we are looking at for mitigation measures, how to change the way the fishing work, how to change the fishing gears, and how to change some of the current practices, or spatial and temporal measures that help us to address bycatch and reduce bycatch in certain areas. So here is the mitigation measures that are going at the moment in the 5 countries, with address to all the pelagic longliners, demersal longliners, static nets, trolls, and purse seiners. And as you see, most of them, they are targeting to sharks, rays, and sea turtles, but there's also some are targeting to cetaceans. And we will see as well how they will help us to get more information regarding other species as well. So I will not mention you can see there the mitigation measures, but with me I have an expert here, that is the next speaker, and I will jump into him now to express and to comment on what a project and how a program on bycatch mitigation measure works, because he is fully accounted on all this. So Jaques. Sacchi. And yeah, this is the speaker. Yeah, I can.
Thank you, Maria, for your starting presentation. That's the deal of the second phase of Med bycatch is to find solution for reducing bycatch and mortality of vulnerable species with limit loss of commercial species within the Mediterranean context of small-scale fishery targeting several species. The main vulnerable species we are considering are effectively marine mammal, seabirds, sea turtle, and elasmo branch. And we decide to focus on main pointed gear which was caused from main bycatch in the first problem. It was gain net. I will speak more. Set net, long line, demersal long line, trawlers, and purse seine. We made a selection of several mitigating machines from the literatures and experience of other countries. These measures were either preventive or remedial, and seek avoiding attraction with the gear, reducing bycatch, or reducing mortality. Please. For example, for trawl, extruder device will be tested for allowing the escapement of shark, ray, and sea turtle. For sea turtle, we know the term of TED, extruder device. For set nets, we focus on gear modification, pingers and green line for avoiding the contact with of sea turtle and dolphin with other gear, and modification for long line, circle hooks and breaking hooks was some technique easy to implement and to test for reducing bycatch of ray, for example, and also to reduce mortality. For purse seine, we was most focused mainly on event catch of dolphin inside the net, but mainly target on problem of the depredation. We came particularly on small scale fishery targeting sardines. We do not forget also to take off of other issue problem which comes as depredation, which can become a big problem in several fisheries in the Mediterranean. Ghost fishing is also increasing problem in some area, producing a lot of mortality. Bottom impacts of mobile gear is important for example, coral and area. And also question of entangling in marine debris and also marine line of animals is very big. This will also another issue. Please. One question I think we have also to take during this experiment is a question of good practice on board. Good practice on board, we can, 1 minute. Application to the fishery is this is a long and complex implementation because this step of the phase 2 is only one we need to continue after for implementation, which supposed to imply the implication of fisher sectors. Problem of interaction is a global problem. We have to reduce. They produce several problems, due to increase of human activity, competition of seafood, and also leads to dependence, depredation, technical, social, economic for the fishery, mistreatment, and bycatch mortality. Generally, we give as solution reduction of fishing effort and avoiding critical area. A solution proposed by several players is to combine these two actions by a dynamic management approach, combining environment condition and occurrence of the animals. We can find some example in EcoCast and Total Watch example. I let to Maria the conclusion.
Thank you very much, Jaques. So just to finalize, we trying to come up with some conclusions of what we are coming now on the work and some recommendations, as to say. The bycatch issue in the Mediterranean is very high, is very important, and is very high. Many of the endangered species, including sharks, rays, cetaceans, turtles, despite many years of conservation efforts, is still there, and is still very high proportion of endangered and critical endangered species within this group. So we come up that the understanding of bycatch first has to start with developing policy commitments for sure, understanding the fisheries socioeconomic needs at the level where the bycatch is taking on, and use the momentum. Now we have a very big momentum in the Mediterranean. There is a lot of talk about the bycatch, and we need to use this momentum to build on and make it in a way that we develop these cost-effective fisheries practicalities, and we pass from the testing to the full implementation at the regional scale and the full implementation at the country scale as well. And for this, we would like to recommend, given the critical situation of many of these species, that by 2025, is very challenging. We wanted to see Mediterranean countries adopting and started to implement mitigation measures to significantly reduce the incidental catch at national level, with a national level measures, taking the shape of whether there are gear modifications, whether they are changing fishing practice. Sometimes it's something as simple as that. And also temporary or spatial temporal restrictions. And also, finally, to ensure compliance, ensure multi-stakeholder cooperation. We have shown that this is possible. We have many NGOs working in this process as well. We have many stakeholders on the institutions and political level working, and this multi-stakeholder cooperation is crucial for making a financial strategy in the way that we managed to change from this testing to the full implementation, but we managed to make it that it's a long-term implementation. Fishing gear is very expensive as well, so changing all this practice will take some efforts, and for some of the countries most reported and most damaged by the COVID and other things, this is becoming really a call for donors to help us out to achieve this. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much, both of you, for that excellent presentation. I wish we had more time to find out more. We have 2 more presentations in this panel, and I would now like to invite Mercedes Muñoz Cañas, coordinator of the Plastic Pollution Portfolio at the IUCN Center for Mediterranean Cooperation, with a background on marine conservation of over 15 years. So let's load up your presentation. Terence, can you do something, because we're showing this in full screen, but it's not on the screen there.
No, it's not happening.
Is that all right for you?
Yeah. It's perfect. I mean, it moves. I mean, if it's...
Yeah, she needs that.
So hello everybody, I'm Mercedes Muñoz here, they already present me. I'm going to talk a little bit about what is IUCN doing in terms of plastic pollution. Actually, I'm not going to get into... better now? No? You don't hear it? Okay. Yeah?
Somewhere in the middle.
Someone in here?
No, between the two that you did.
Okay, now better?
That's better.
All right, I'm sorry. I'm just going to talk a little bit of what is IUCN doing about plastic pollution, and not going to get into what is happening with the plastic in the Mediterranean, because I think everybody is more than aware that we have a huge problem. So when we were asking us what a presentation here, actually what we want to present, or what I want to present right now, is the overall idea of the overall work that IUCN is doing, mainly trying to reduce this huge problem that the Mediterranean Sea has. So right now what we do, we are actually targeting these 3 different, what we're doing is trying to know more about what is happening with the plastic when it enters into the Mediterranean. It's true that we have to fight the plastic before it goes into the Mediterranean, but once it's there, we want to understand what is happening, what are the movements of the plastic when it's in the Mediterranean, and of course try to find ways in order to, when there is a future science and when there is a future technology, maybe we know where we have to go in order to take this plastic out of the Mediterranean. The other thing that we have, or we are doing and we're working in, is engaging stakeholders to develop solutions. As I said, mainly, and as most of you know, mainly the problem of the plastic comes from inland and it's not from the sea. So around 80 or 90% of plastic pollution comes from land. So we need a huge stakeholders and a multi-actor approach in order to target and reduce the problem. Because the aim of everything that we do is, of course, reduce the plastic leakage in the Mediterranean basin, trying to avoid the plastic to go into the Mediterranean Sea. Saying that, I just want to say or describe a little bit in a really fast way. If somebody wants more information, just please write me an email. But the 2 projects and the initiative we're involved in. So the first one, what we call, it's the Bmed, closing the plastic tap. It has 3 specific objectives, and it's being developed by IUCN, but it has 2 partners, the Tara Ocean Foundation and Subrider Foundation Europe, and it's been funded by Prince Albert II of Monaco. And what we do here is what I said, you know, this first target that we have in IUCN, that it's finding the knowledge and trying to understand more about the plastics and the origins. So we are gathering the information on the field. We just went with a boat, Tara went there and just got some information from the Mediterranean, and we are combining that with some office studies and scientific knowledge that it's out there and it's been publishing, and we're trying to see and combine those types of information. Of course, this will support and help us in informing Mediterranean policies, not only at international level, but as well the plastic, as he's been saying for a long time, it's a local and regional problem. So in order to target the plastic in the whole Mediterranean, we have to involve the local people as well. And of course, the raise public awareness, not only in the public, but in the private sector again. So this has been happening, and we believe that after a year and a half developing this project, what we need to know now, and we're thinking of what to move forward, I think that there is a need to create a community of practice around the issue of the plastic pollution in the Mediterranean. So we will try to gather organizations around the Mediterranean in order to get together, share the knowledge, upscale results, because there is so many people around the Mediterranean working on plastic pollutions, and they need to share their information in order to upscale results. The other thing that we want to do is we are gathering a lot of knowledge from science, and we want to do, the Mediterranean IUCN has these story maps in which you are able to download for science students information. So we want to create one of them. Once we finalize with the data gathering, we want to do a story map in order to support future works and building from something that we are doing. The second thing I wanted to mention is the Bmed Initiative, because the first one is we're gathering the knowledge, but the Bmed Initiative that was created by Data Against Brighter Mava and Prince Albert Monaco, and IUCN is an honorary member since its beginning in 2019. What it's trying to do is what it says there. I don't need to say anything else because it's a commitment for a plastic-free Mediterranean Sea. And it has two different sides. The first one, what it wants to do is to support the organizations that are working locally to target the plastic pollution around the Mediterranean, creating a network, and again, trying to create those links between the organizations, what I just already mentioned of the community of practice. The other thing, of course, we're gathering the multi-stakeholders, we're gathering the organizations, we're targeting a lot of different stakeholders, but we shouldn't forget the business. So the Bmed Initiative has another side, another project that aims to gather businesses around the Mediterranean in order to enhance the private sector in tackling and fighting the plastic pollution. This is done in two separate ways. The first one is getting in this business that are willing to be part of this Bmed Initiative and sharing and getting them together with science. So the science is able to provide solutions to the businesses. Businesses do want to change, but sometimes they change in the wrong way. So science is supporting them in order to apply the correct solutions. And the other part is these business organizations, they really want to do the change on the field. So we are creating some projects on the field in order to support what they want to do. So like right now we are starting a pilot project in Marseille in which we're going to support a hotel to reduce the plastic in the entire hotel. That's the Bmed Initiative, and I'll just finalize with our third project, that is the Plastic Waste Free Islands Med. And this project actually, it's, I'm just talking about the plastic pollution in the Mediterranean, but of course IUCN has a global program that is called Closing the Plastic Tap. And the Mediterranean, what it's aimed to do, and in this Closing the Plastic Tap program, we have different islands around the globe. So there is some in the Caribbean, there is some in Asia, and we have two pilot areas, two pilot sites that are here. I know that I have but we have Menorca and we have Cyprus. And we are working there as pilot sites. And what we want to do is we want to look to the which are the sectors that are leakaging more plastic into the ocean, into the sea in this case, and provide them with some information and action plans in order to stop the plastic leakaging into the Mediterranean. So this project, what it aims to do is scientific-based practices. I mean, we look into the science in order to provide practices that are more well targeted into the real problem. How do we do this? Well, actually, these are the layers of the project. I won't get that long into this because I don't like this picture that much. But what we do, and actually what we have been doing, because it's about to end, this project ends in December this year. What we did is what it says there, a hotspot analysis. So we went into Menorca, we went into Cyprus, and we say, okay, let me get all the data and let's see which are the sectors. Actually, we target fisheries, we target tourism, and we target the waste management. Those were the 3 ones pre-selected, and we tried to gather the information from them. And we wanted to know which type of plastic was coming more into the ocean and which sector was the one that was providing more leakage into the Mediterranean. When we got all that information, that of course is available and you can use it, and it's shareable, everything is open, we developed some policy briefs and economic brief. The policy brief, we review the information that is around plastic, all the laws, all the information, and provide recommendations in order to reduce the plastic leakage with the information that we gather with the hotspot analysis. And then we study some solutions on the economic point of view. So for example, one of the solutions, we wanted to see if it's viable and to which point it's already useful or not. And they're available, this one not yet. These 2 are available on IUCN website if somebody is interested. I think I have another one because this is just, again, we are doing the policy briefs, we are doing the economic briefs, but we have to move more. We don't just want to inform. So we are developing action plans with the stakeholders around. We are gathering different stakeholders, getting with them and talking with them, trying to find these practices that could be adopted in the near future in those areas in order to reduce the plastics. This is almost, as I said, this project is almost done. But what we want to do now, and please, if somebody is interested in collaborating, here is my email. We want to do a blueprint for the future. This project is mainly targeting islands in the Mediterranean, but what we want to do is to create a roadmap in which many stakeholders, many organizations can collaborate in order to all together create this roadmap to stop the leakage of the plastics, mainly in the islands in the Mediterranean. So I'll stop here. I think I just, there you go. Thank you very much. 12 minutes.
Thank you. That was perfectly on time. Excellent. An excellent presentation. Thank you so much. Super clear. So we have one more presentation, and my challenge to you, Lefteris, before I introduce you, is that if you can go shorter than the time that we told you, then we'll have more time for discussion, because several speakers have gone longer, and so now we're like down to a very short time for discussion at the end of this. So just bear with me a second. Okay, so I would now like to introduce Lefteris Arapakis. Lefteris comes from a long line of Greek professional fishermen. During the Greek economic crisis, he co-founded Enaleia, which is an organization with a vision to make the marine ecosystem sustainable. Enaleia has created the first school for professional fishing in Greece and a wide-scale plastic cleanup, the Mediterranean cleanup, through working with 1,000 fishers where the collected waste is integrated into the circular economy. Lefteris has been awarded as the UN European Young Champion of the Earth in 2020. Wow. And he's a graduate of the Athens University of Economics and Business. So with that, I invite Lefteris to come forward, and let's see if we can load up your presentation. Okay.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for the introduction, and I hope that you can hear me. And for the time limitation, just show me the 2-minute sign before you want me to stop, and I will have it shorter. So, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation to be here today. It's really an honor for me to be able to participate in this event. I was giving it a lot of thought on what should I share with you today. You are all experts in your relevant field, and you're all experts in sustainability and the sea. So I just came to the conclusion that the best thing to do is just be authentic and share my own story. So my name is Lefteris Arapakis, and I'm the co-founder of Enaleia. Enaleia in Greek means together with the fishermen. We started a few years ago during the Greek economic crisis. At the time, the unemployment for youth was 59%. Half of my friends fled the country. But we wanted to do something about that. So one day I was discussing with my father, and my family, they are fishermen for like 5 generations. And he was complaining, like a typical fisherman behavior, that they couldn't find enough personnel for the fishing boats. So we thought, okay, why not train unemployed people and connect them with the fishermen? So together with some friends, we started Enaleia, and through Enaleia, we created the first school for fishing in the country. We have trained more than... I will find it. We have trained more than 130 unemployed people and created around 100 jobs in the sector. But the point is, I didn't know anything about fishing. I studied economics and business. And I think even today, I am the worst fisherman in the country. So when we were creating the curriculum, we went on fishing trips with all kinds of fishing boats to see the whole procedure. And our first trip was in the Aegean Sea. And then I was really shocked to see that fishermen were collecting in their nets not only fish, but also plastic. Lots of it. What got my attention was in the first catch, we got like a blitz can of a soda drink. And when I looked at the expiration date, it had expired back in 1987. It was 30 years in the sea. And I'm looking at that. And then the fisherman takes it from my hand and throws it back in the sea and says, plastic is not our problem. Over the next days, we collected from the sea plastic bottles, ghost nets, even a refrigerator and a washing machine. And they just dumped them inside. So when we came back to land, we started reading the latest papers, and we realized that by 2050 there will be more plastic than fish in the sea. So there is no use getting there more fishermen if we'll have no fish in the future. So we decided to act on that, and we acted small. We started with a small pilot in our local port in Piraeus. Very simple stuff, like my father, some of his friends. We told them, just bring back the plastic you collect in your nets. And they did. And the results were extraordinary. They collected vast amounts of plastic in just a few months. And what really shocked us was that a lot of this plastic was not coming only from Greece, but also from other Mediterranean countries as well. Italy, Spain, Turkey, and Egypt. So we realized that it is not a national challenge, but rather a Mediterranean challenge. So this is why we decided to create a new project called the Mediterranean Cleanup. And over the last 2.5 years, we established fishing for plastic activities in 27 ports in the Mediterranean Sea. That's around, we are collaborating with 300 fishing boats right now. We are working in Greece and Italy. And that's a total number of around 1,200 professional fishers collecting plastic from the sea every day. How much? Well, currently, we are collecting around 5,000 kilos of plastic weekly. And plastic that varies from plastic chairs, plastic bottles, literally anything you can imagine. We just pick it from the sea. This is the catch of a day from one port, to give you an example. Apart from fishing for plastic activities, we're able to create new cleanup activities as well. We participated in the Clean Seas campaign of United Nations Environment Programme. And over the last June, just in one day, together with the Greek Ministry of Shipping, we collected more than 14,000 kilos of marine litter from the sea. But also, we did the same week a massive cleanup in the island of Ithaca. Many citizens told us that there's a massive problem there. And it was. There was a fish farm that around 10 years ago was abandoned. They left everything there. So when we went to the island, the plastic was so much in 3 specific locations, it was to our knee. So in 1 week, we collected more than 70 100,000 kilos of plastic from the island. Overall, we have collected more than 250,000 kilos of plastic from the sea, most of which is collected over the last months. And I'm trying to. But cleaning plastic from the sea is not a solution. It's just like Mediterranean is a sinking boat. And what we do with the cleanups is we have a bucket and we put the water out. It buys us some time, but it's not solving the problem. In order to solve the problem, we need to prevent plastic from entering the sea. We need to cover the hole. And to our powers and to our degrees, we're trying to do that. We are working with all these 1,200 fishermen to get their old fishing equipment and preventing from entering the sea and become the deadliest form of plastic, ghost gear, which is around 20 to 25% of the plastic we collect from the sea, since we are also operating in fishing communities. Ghost gear is actually so terrible. Not only is it the most common thing we find in the oceans, but it takes also 600 years to break down to microplastics. And for all of this period of time, it keeps on fishing. But what are we doing with all this material? Well, that was the hardest question to answer. In the beginning, we didn't know. Nobody was accepting that. But gradually, in collaboration with certified recycling companies, we have established a recycling system. So in each port that we are operating, we have a container or a press container, like that one. And when it gets full, then the plastic goes to a sorting facility. And in the sorting facility, around 64% of the material gets recycled and turned into pellets. And these pellets can be turned into new products. But not only we recycle the material, we also facilitate the upcycling of it. So we send the plastic bottles we collect from the sea, the PET plastic, to a fashion company in Madrid, and they make it into jackets like that you see, or like my shoes are made from plastic bottles we collected from the sea. And the nets that we collect from the fishermen and the nets that we collect from the sea, we send it to an environmental organization in the Netherlands called Lefteris. And they facilitate the upcycling of this material into new products, such as socks and swimming shoes. In order to make this happen, we are working mainly with the private sector, with charitable foundations and big companies to make our work operate in the Mediterranean. But also we are working with the Greek government over the last months. What we do with the Greek government is we give them data on the plastic that we collect to find out what is the most common plastic we found in the seas and creating new laws, sustainable laws, to prevent more plastic from entering there. For our work in the Mediterranean Sea, we got the award of Young Champion of the Year from the United Nations Environment Programme. And after this award, and with the guidance of UNEP, we're able to think that what we created in the Mediterranean could also be established in other parts of the world. We're not doing rocket science here. Every fisherman that is using nets is collecting plastic from the sea. So why not expand it in other regions? And we did. Over the last months, we replicated our work in Kenya. So in collaboration with 350 fishers, we are collecting thousands of kilos of plastic from the coastline of Kenya, together with their ghost gear. And then, in collaboration with a local recycling center, we turn this material into flakes. So, to sum up my presentation, I would just like to share with you my philosophy for life and what we are doing. I believe that the world is not going to change by your opinion. I believe that the world is going to change by your actions. And please let me repeat that again. The world is not going to change by your opinion, but it's going to change by your actions. So if I, a young person coming from a small fishing family in Greece, can motivate the fishers of the Mediterranean Sea to create one of the biggest plastic cleanups in Europe, then each and every one of you can motivate their own communities, farmers, students, teachers, politicians and scientists to take action against climate change. It is not too late to act. I was not even supposed to be here. I was supposed to be working in a fishing boat like my brothers are. We can make the change. The fishing communities have proved that they can be part of the solution. What about you? Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Great presentation. Thank you. Very inspiring. So we will be doing the last. We're going to go right into the next panel without switching the room. Okay, so bear with us for a moment. And let me ask Khalil, who is online, if he can test his microphone. Can we hear you, Khalil?
Yes. Hello?
Okay.
Do you hear me?
We can hear you. Great. Yes. How are you?
Okay. Well, I'm very interested in all
recording
the
in progress.
They are great.
Yes. Okay, Terrence, can you go back to my laptop here for a moment? We're just going to show the agenda for this panel.
Yeah, I'll show. Okay, you know why they changed the presentation way. So I do it this way, and then I can put it there.
Sorry, what did you press?
Because sometimes they make inverse presentations, so I put like,
Oh, move lecture. Oh, okay.
mod lecture or mod.
Okay, got it.
So when you go on, I'm going to present it.
Okay. Okay, so this is a session that is a wrap-up and summary of what we've heard today. It's called All Hands on Deck. Can you hear me okay through the microphones? Yeah, okay, good. We're going to start with Khalil Attia, the SPA-RAC director, and then we'll have another presentation from Carlo Zaghi. So you can switch over to the Zoom, please. So now I would like to introduce Khalil Attia. He is the UNEP-MAP SPA-RAC director, and we're just waiting to get you on screen. And Yassine, if you can pin his photo, then I think it becomes bigger. So just bear with us one moment, please. Khalil. Okay, great. So over to you, Khalil.
Thank you. Hello, everybody in Marseille. Hello, Dr. Zaghi. And hello, people all over the world. The UCN World Conservation Congress is and will continue till the end to be an opportunity to beat the drum for nature in the Mediterranean, where ecosystems are stifled by mounting pressure from economic sectors where unsustainable models still prevail, unfortunately. As the region and the world are still reeling from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, this edition of the World Conservation Congress provides us with a platform to remind decision makers and all the actors, including the private sector and the public at large, that the nature-based recovery is not only possible, but also essential to a more sustainable and resilient future. The only way to secure that vision for the future for ourselves and our children is by working together to relieve the pressures on biodiversity. Cooperation for biodiversity conservation has generated encouraging impact in many fields, including the protection of the habitats of the rarest species, shielding species from hunting and fishing, and reducing pollution. As highlighted in the Living Mediterranean report, these measures and initiatives have made it possible to save a large number of species from extinction. We need to build on these bright spots, improve and upscale actions to protect and restore biodiversity. If given half a chance, nature will recover in the most astonishing ways. Let's act before it is damaged beyond repair. The Mediterranean has one of the most advanced legal frameworks to have been set up in a regional sea context, namely the Convention for the Protection of the Marine Environment and the Coastal Region of the Mediterranean, called Barcelona Convention in short, and its protocols. Enhancing enforcement and compliance with this legal framework and its strategic tools, such as the post-2020 sub-bio, must be at the heart of the Mediterranean solutions. Its full implementation is essential to the attainment of good environmental status, the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, and the launch of a green renaissance in the post-COVID era. Marine protected areas, commonly called MPAs, can be superbly effective conservation tools, but setting up an effective MPA is a complex undertaking that takes time to come to fruition. And it needs the full support of all stakeholders. Scientists are calling for protected areas and other effective area-based management tools to cover at least 30% of the Mediterranean by 2030, a target included in the new regional strategy for marine protected areas and other effective area conservation measures that called OECMs, that is being developed by SPARAC in consultation with a wide array of regional partners under the Barcelona Convention. Sustainable financing mechanisms, such as the Med Fund, helps MPAs working effectively. Several actors are involved in financing MPAs, aiming to protect biodiversity and marine ecosystems and improve the living conditions of local populations. But working separately limits strategic potential. The Med Fund was created in 2015 to mobilize and bring together public and private financing partners to promote MPA development and efficiency across the Mediterranean. Today, it includes 6 Mediterranean countries and a number of regional civil society organizations. A wider adhesion to the Med Fund would allow more MPAs to benefit from an innovative funding greater to long-term financial sustainability. Monitoring and assessment are crucial to improve conservation measures. We need harmonized methodologies, collective effort, and the additional leveraging effects of such programs, such as capacity building, public awareness raising, raise of collaborative culture, etc., to bring essential knowledge and robust data on vulnerable marine species and human impacts on the marine environment. The ECO-MAP survey initiative, the AZ, is a successful story that should be replicated and extended to other marine species. From tourism and fisheries to shipping and agriculture, the region's economy is inextricably linked to the state of its environment. As recommended by the State of Environment and Development Report, dominant consumption and production patterns need to be profoundly altered because they are currently based on unsustainable resources consumption and coupled with environmental degradations that negatively impact ecosystems, human well-being, and health. Moreover, the Mediterranean basin is warming 20% faster than the global average, which exacerbates its vulnerabilities and making the need for a paradigm shift even more pressing. Several initiatives like DFAF, of the switcher community, or Enaleia, a professional fishing school, demonstrate that we can use natural resources without depleting them, and even contribute to improving their status. Circular economy principles should be upscaled to stem waste and pollution and generate natural systems and regenerate natural systems. Mediterranean countries are examining the possible designation of the Mediterranean Sea as a whole as an emission control area for sulfur dioxide, for oxides in general, pursuant to MARPOL Annex VI within the framework of the convention called the Bmed SOx ECA to reduce sulfur oxides emissions from ships in the Mediterranean region and address the adverse effects of gas exposures on human health and the environment. We can call for this proposal to be adopted and implemented. As one of the main threats to biodiversity, the bycatch of vulnerable species, it should be addressed as a priority by continuing monitoring programs and extending mitigation measures throughout the Mediterranean. There is a wealth, as you see, of solutions that can be built upon for a sustainable future. But for this to work, the political will is the utmost condition. The urgency of the situation demands comprehensive policy interventions that cuts through all sectors with a view to flicking the green switch in a decisive manner. Ladies and gentlemen, let's join forces and work together in that direction. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Khalil. So now we're going to go to the last panelist, and this is Dr. Carlo Zaghi. He's Director General of the Sea and Coast at the Italian Ministry of Ecological Transition, and he is a president, the representative of Italy of the Barcelona Convention Bureau.
Recording stopped.
So
recording in progress.
So just bear with us a moment. We're moving to the next speaker. So just yes, one moment, please. Carlo,
could you listen to me?
We can hear you, but now we just take a second to get your video up.
Yeah.
And then we'll be ready for you. We're very close. Thanks for your patience. And thanks for your patience, everyone, as we use technology in ways we didn't expect a year and a half ago. Okay, so Carlo, over to you, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this invitation. And first of all, I would like to thank the UNEP-MAP Regional Activity Center, and in particular its director, Khalil Attia, as well as the MAP coordinator, Tatiana Ema, and her team for organizing this key moment of discussion in the framework of the IUCN World Conservation Congress. I take the chance also to acknowledge the government of France for allowing the Mediterranean community to meet today and to jointly react to the environmental crisis.
Sorry, Carlo, can you hear me? Sorry to interrupt. We just had the audio cut out for you.
Okay.
Now
would you listen to me?
We hear it now, so I don't know what happened. Terrence says you need to press something down to make the sound work. Okay, so if you can just rewind about 10 seconds, that's what we missed that you were saying. Only 10 seconds.
I said that I would like to acknowledge the government of France for allowing the Mediterranean community to meet today and to jointly react to the environment crisis that is affecting our Mediterranean region. We all know that the health of our Mare Nostrum is at serious risk. As revealed by the last UNEP-MAP State of the Environment report and the first Mediterranean climate assessment, the Mediterranean region has one of the highest rates of biodiversity loss in the world, with 40% of its marine species in decline. The adverse effects of climate change, together with effects of overexploitation of our marine coastal environment, marine litter, and the increase of invasive alien species are affecting the Mediterranean Sea. Moreover, the increasing levels of air pollutants from maritime and tourism sectors represent a serious threat to the people who live in port cities. Shipping contributes almost 3% of the total greenhouse emissions, and it can triple by 2050 following the current economic growth without any change in energy sources and efficiency. It is also recognized that our region is at the crossroads of major global maritime routes, hosting the major oil transportation lines. Over the last decade, the Mediterranean has experienced a steady increase, in particular in oil transport and cruise shipping. This has meant a significant impact on our marine and coastal biodiversity related to the release of oil, hazardous substances, and pollutant emissions. Having said that, an immediate change is needed, and it will be possible only through the effective coordination among all the actors of the Mediterranean community. We have all the responsibility to act with concrete measures in order to reverse the decline of biodiversity in our sea. At this end, the Barcelona Convention and the initiatives that its contracting parties will adopt at the next conference of the parties in Antalya in December, and in particular the 22-27 midterm strategy, will be essential to respond to the said crisis. The mid-term strategy is the tool that will guide all countries in achieving a transition towards a Mediterranean Sea healthy, protected, and resilient to the global and local threats. Moreover, the post-2020 strategic action program for the conservation of biodiversity in the Mediterranean region will contribute at regional level to the current global processes under negotiation in the CBD fora to achieve unanimous consensus on the target of 30% of marine protected areas by 2030. Italy has always believed that the regional dimension, in particular the regional sea programs, are key elements for the implementation of the effective measures that we have to take. In this context, the Italian government intends to promote the regional cooperation to face the threats that cannot be dealt with at national level. In particular, Italy, together with France and other countries, has promoted the initiative aimed at declaring, possibly by 2024, the whole Mediterranean as a sulfur emission control area. In this way, we will contribute to the reduction of the emissions deriving from the maritime sector and of the consequent harmful impacts on the health of its coastal population. As active member of the Global Ocean Alliance since May 2020, Italy supports its 30 by 30 initiative, confident that an effective protection of at least 30% of the global ocean will allow to achieve the environmental benefits and the objectives set in the CBD Aichi Targets 14. In line with this target, through the extension of the global and the regional networks of marine protected areas, it will be possible to recover endangered species and habitats, strengthen their resilience, and therefore allowing marine ecosystems to continue providing their services which are vital for the humanity. At this end, let me spend some words on Pelagos Sanctuary, the first large protected area for protecting of cetaceans created worldwide. We are working together with our colleagues of France and Monaco on a new management plan for further improvement of the effectiveness of the Pelagos Sanctuary on protecting marine mammals. During the next COP of Pelagos in December, we will adopt this new plan based on a more and more deeply involvement of stakeholders and local communities. Besides, we have agreed to set up a fund in the Pelagos budget open to the contribution of all possible donors for funding research and specific conservation measures. With our colleagues of France and Spain, we are also working together on designation by International Maritime Organization of a particularly sensitive sea area in North Mediterranean Sea for the protection of the population of cetaceans present in this area. In line with this approach, Italy has recently adopted, in the context of the National Recovery Plan, a specific project aiming at the protection and restoration of the seabeds and marine habitats to comply with the EU 2030 biodiversity strategy and its targets. Through this project, Italy will finance for a total amount of 400 million euros three main actions. First, improving the systems and the capability of observation of the marine and coastal ecosystems. Second, mapping of marine and coastal habitats of interest for conservation purposes. Third, realizing ecological restoration of the seabeds and marine and coastal habitats, which have been identified through the mapping activity. The first action aimed at identifying the habitats of interest for conservation purposes will also guarantee the completion of the national network of the sea level stations and the offshore buoys able to detect the underwater noise. The intention is to update the current distribution of seagrass areas, as well as the seabeds with the presence of coralligenous, cold water corals, and rock habitats, which are of conservation interest according to the Habitat Directive. The final step of the project will be the implementation of the conservation and the restoration measures, including activities aiming at reducing the anthropic pressures to the habitats of interest. This will be made after research pilot initiatives aimed to ensuring the feasibility and the effectiveness of each measure and action. Finally, thanks to this project, we will develop specific guidelines for a correct implementation at local level of the measures for the protection and the restoration of seabeds and marine habitats. Thank you for your kind attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sacchi. That was fantastic. Thank you. I recall in the beginning when I was giving some opening remarks, and I was noting that the Mediterranean has an opportunity to really contribute to the post-2020 biodiversity framework. And the way it can do that is through partnerships, investment, collective action, and innovative solutions. And your presentation touched on all of those issues. So it's fantastic to see Italy taking a leadership role and making partnerships, doing significant investment. You know, we all need the Pelagos sanctuary to succeed, and I think you've laid out a good framework for how that might happen. So thank you so much. I want to also thank Khalil Attia for his intervention, his presentation about wrapping up the day. And to let you know that the wrap-up will be refined when we get feedback from the rapporteurs today. It will be developed into some information that will be released in a press release, and then it will go as a message to this Congress from the Mediterranean. So now it's my opportunity to do some thank yous, and I would like to start with the speakers, because we had very many speakers today. I won't list them all, that would take too long. There was some fantastic talks, and they, starting right from this morning at 9:30, we had excellent talks all the way until the very last one. So thank you so much to all the speakers. You can clap. Thank you. Okay, and I would also like to thank my colleagues at RAC. Unfortunately, most of them could not come today, but behind the scenes, they're all working to make this session a success. So thank you to all of them, including Khalil Attia, who you just saw. Yassine is here. He's the only one from that team, and he's been working tirelessly. So thank you to RAC. Thank you for, yep. And I want to thank also the IUCN Mediterranean, so Terence and Andres, and so many others, Arancha, and it's a problem to start naming names because I'll forget some people, but so I apologize for that. But thank you so much to the IUCN Mediterranean. They're managing this stand. They're working behind the scenes to make sure everything runs smoothly. And so thank you to IUCN Med. And lastly, I want to thank for your active participation here, all of the audience, for your great questions, your paying attention, learning, interacting with all of us. So with that, we're going to end this session, and I wish you all the best of luck and a great Congress, and we'll see you all very soon. Thank you.
Recording stopped.
في عملنا السايد ايفنت يبدا